Pickup locations are the physical locations where drivers will go to start their loads. An important part of pickup locations is having GPS coordinates or an address so that it's easy to find, as well as information about the site specifically. So we're going to go ahead and create a new pickup by clicking on this green new pickup button up here at the top, and we'll fill out this form. So as always, the yellow highlighted fields are required. So we're just going to call this test location 1. And anything that is not highlighted is optional. So you can give an ID, notes, and verbal directions once they are driving to that site if they need to. So one of the things right here, site cargo type, you can specify what kind of cargo this site has in order to limit the types of routes that can be created for that site. So whatever cargo is set up for your organization will be available right there. And you have the option to prevent drivers from overriding a cargo calculation. So if there is, for example, tanks on site and they calculate the barrels from the top gauge, bottom gauge calculation, you can prevent them from overriding it on a site-by-site basis if you want to. The next section right here is the coordinates section. So we have latitude and longitude. If you have your exact coordinates, you can put them in here. If you don't have your exact coordinates, you can... if you have an address, you can always use this button right here to convert an address into a GPS location. It'll give you the latitude and longitude. But I'm just going to go ahead and put in something roughly in Texas, 29.4 and 98.6. And after we do that, we can click on this button to calculate the state and county. So depending, oh, I forgot, we are a negative. So... negative. All right, that looks better. So it'll calculate the street address, city, county, state, zip code, all of that based on the coordinates you put in. So the next section down here, if a location is no longer an active location, you can check that box. Usually you would do this on edit and not on creation of a location, but you can go ahead and see that in there and the date when it was a deactivated location. And the next step right here is putting in the facility information. And depending on your organization settings, you might have different fields here. This one's set up to be kind of a crude oil one. So we'll go ahead and we'll put in a producer operating at this location, a lease number, a property number, and there's a few other things, legal land, barrels per day, some things that are specific to this organization setup. The last bit down here are facility contacts. So you can put in a person's name, phone number, email, etc. If there's somebody that is on site or would be responsible for on-site stuff, if you want to have that information available. And then you can add additional contacts if you want. And then there is the alert section where you can put in a pop-up for drivers when they arrive on site or dispatchers when they're working on a load with the specific site of any need-to-know information. And at that point, all we have to do is click Create Pickup, and it will create our new load. As soon as we've created a new pickup location, it will automatically redirect us to the Manage Docs page of this test location, or whatever the location we created was. So the Manage Docs page is important because it lets us create subsections of the facility where drivers are going to go to either to pick up their load. So we call these in LoadCall docks, but these could be tanks or meters or pits or anything like that. A dock is just a generic term that we use to capture like the subsection of the facility they'll be working on. So if you want to refer back to the pickup, you can always click on this View Pickup button to pick up or to view the location, see some of this information if you're working in this page later down the road. But we're going to go ahead and click this Add Dock button up here at the top. And in here, we have to give the dock a name. So I'm going to call this, since we're working with an example in oil, I'll do Tank 1. You can give an optional ID. And then the dock type is also dependent on what your organization is hauling. But in here, I have a tank, a meter, or just generic site. So I'm going to go ahead and give it, say it's a tank. If I choose meter, it's going to have different inputs, and site won't really have anything because it's kind of just generic. A meter is going to have the ability to put in a meter factor if you have that for that specific header. And right here, underneath tank, we have the most options, so you can do strapping types. So if I do generic strapping for a tank, then I can put in, your 1.667 barrels per inch or whatever it is. If you do incremental strapping, you have the ability to create a incrementally strapped tank. So I can say from 0 feet up to the, let's say, 48. It's going to be 1.6557 or whatever. And then I can add another row, and starting at 48 and going up to, we'll do 74.25. You can put whatever you want in here. 1.6687. And as you can see, you can kind of create your incremental strapping tables in here, which will automatically calculate the total volume of the tank and the tank height. So I'm just going to go up to 128 and do 1.6679. So you can see it automatically calculates that out. And as you work through here, there is the ability to also track dock history. So if you wanted to track any strapping changes as they were updated in this case, you can go ahead and do that as well. But I'm not going to add that in. So after I click save, it's going to add this dock to my location, or this tank in this case. And you can see right here, we have the current tank information. And if you've added any tank history, which we didn't, you would have that accessible right here. And within this view, you can edit or delete this tank. Edit will just open up the same form, whereas delete will ask you to confirm if you really want to delete it. And then after we've done all that, created all of our tanks, we can go back to the all pickups, and we can see, if I search, we created test location 1, and in here we have the ability to view, including our docks now, since we created that, within the view window. And then if we click on edit, it's going to go back to this page that we previously covered, where you can edit the main location information. And if you do the manage location files, oh, not that one. If you do the, we'll do it on this one, manage docks, we can get back and edit any of the docks that we have for the current site. The last couple of options in here are the ability to copy a location. So if you want to split a location into 2 or something like that, or start with it as like a general starting point, you can go ahead and copy. And then you can also click on the map to see the location. And one of the things in here is it will take the most recent ticket, and it will also show the GPS location that the driver recorded for that site, so you can see how close your GPS is to where the driver actually said it was. Usually these are pretty spot on. So the driver, this is the same, but the driver that went to this location, he recorded that as his pickup location. So if you click on the pins, you can see this one's the one that we have listed. And then this one that usually has a lot longer, more digits is the one that the driver put in. They're pretty much the same. So no difference there, but that can be helpful to see the difference between what the driver's putting in and to see if it's off a little bit. And the last thing in here is the ability to delete locations, which will remove them from this page, and the ability to use them in LoadCall. So with that is pickup locations in LoadCall.